Hello, Beatrice. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you feeling? It's very early, I know, but how are you?
Well, I'm fine. No, it's not that early. That's okay.
Well, yeah,
How are you?
it's an hour later where you are, right? I'm doing well. I got up really early, and I'm really looking forward to chat to you. You're beautiful. Your hair is gorgeous. Like
Thank you.
your whole energy is beautiful. I feel like really excited about this conversation.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited too.
Where in the world are you right now? Where are you from?
I'm in France,
Hmm.
and actually, I'm southwest of France, so near the ocean.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Amazing.
except that I can go, but I'm near of it, but I can go.
So, is it still like you have to actually stay at home? You're not allowed to.
Well, we are allowed to go outside, but we have a limited area where we can go. So
Mm.
actually, I can just go out of the town and that's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Okay. Well,
yeah,
let's hope this is over soon.
yeah.
um,
Let's hope.
the good thing is, though, because you're locked down, you can talk to me. You have time. With
Yeah,
nothing
definitely.
We have nothing else to do today, guys. This is why we're here. I'm really excited about this. Beatrice, could you introduce yourself for people who are listening to this and are new to you, to your name? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? What did you do before being a photographer? And what's a little bit of your journey? Just tell us a little bit about
All right. So as I said, I'm Beatrice. I'm a photographer, a wedding photographer, wedding and portrait photographer, and I'm working with Jeremy, who's my partner in life and in work. We
that.
are a team called the Quirky,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I've been a photographer for 12, 13 years, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, something like that. We're working together with Jeremy for since 2014 or 2015.
Hmm.
But yeah, I have my own company since 2009.
Wow.
So I was quite young when I started photography.
Hmm.
And before that, I just spent a few years working in insurance companies. So quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's it. I just spent like few years in a private company and then started my own business in
Mhm.
2009.
And
So yeah.
what led you to photography? Was it just a hobby at first, or how did you make that decision? I'm going to start my own business.
Well, I have a brother who's 10 years older than me, and he used to be a photographer, but he was not like me. He used to be like a studio photographer. He had a little studio in the city center, and he was near my school.
Mhm.
So when I was a teenager, after school, I was just in the studio, like moving around and looking at him, and it was fun. So I started to get interested into photography. And one day, he asked me if I wanted to be his second shooter on a wedding, and
Mm.
I was like, "Oh, that's quite fun." So that's how I started photography. I was like 17 years old or 18 years old, something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I finished my school, my business school, and then after that I was like, okay, I don't want to be like an insurance people all my life,
Yeah.
and I think I'm gonna considering being a photographer, and that's how I started.
Was it a shock for you going from being a second shooter to being the main shooter? Because that is so different. When you say, "Oh, this was fun," I'm thinking in my head, "Oh, yes, it is," because being a second is really fun. I don't do wedding photography anymore, but I used to love being a second shooter when I had the chance. It was very. I did it a few times, maybe two times or three times in my life, not many. But I would still do it. If someone would ask me, I'd be like, oh yeah, because I think it's really fun to be a second shooter because you can do like whatever you want pretty much. And you don't have the
Yeah.
pressure of the main. So what was that like going from doing second being a second shooter and then being the main wedding photographer, did you think like, oh, I regret this, maybe I shouldn't do this?
Well, I didn't regret, but I was like, oh my God, what I have to do. I forgot everything my brother told me. And I was like, okay, I can't remember anything. But
Okay.
the thing is, he was clever because he gave me something that really helped me at the beginning. He gave me kind of,
Mhm.
um, how can we call that? I'm sorry, I'm French. My English is not the best.
Oh,
He
don't
gave me
worry.
something like a, thank you.
Don't worry.
You know, a photo, like a small photo with a lot of little photos on it, like example photos
Yeah.
to do during a wedding day. So I had like these little photos with like some getting ready shots IDs, some couple
Oh,
photos IDs. So every time I was a bit lost and I didn't know what to do, I was taking the photo out of my pocket and I was just looking at it in a corner discreetly.
oh,
So it really helped me a lot at the beginning.
yeah. That is so, so sweet. That's amazing. Thank you for your little introduction and for sharing a little bit of your background. Today we're talking about the dun 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 imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
The terrible imposter syndrome, because it's a topic.
yeah.
You told me it's a topic um, you've self studied a lot. You've read a lot about it, and it's like really close to your heart. And obviously, as creatives, we all deal with imposter syndrome, like not feeling like
Yeah,
good enough, feeling like we're faking it. Is there an official definition of what the imposter syndrome means?
I think there is, but I could give you mine. And I finally define imposter syndromes very simply. It's just fears and doubts.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
it.
pretty much. Yes, sums it up.
But yeah, the thing with imposter syndrome, it's like you basically just tell a story to yourself.
Mm,
And most of the time, you're telling the worst story as possible to yourself.
mm,
And that's how, in fact, I like the imposter syndrome subject because I've tried to deal myself with it a lot. I still try to deal myself with it a lot.
mhm,
And so that's why I get into interest into that subject because I wanted to try to be better at it, like less feeling it, if I can
mhm,
say that like that.
mhm.
So, but basically, it's just fears and doubts. That's pretty much it.
How has that held you back in life or in your business, in the past? When you felt that, where were those moments where you felt like an imposter, and has that ever stopped you from doing what you wanted to do?
It's still that's the worst thing. But yeah, in the past, I had few moments where it was quite bad, if I can say
Mhm,
that.
mhm,
Of course, at the beginning, because I was not like I didn't study photography at school. I
mhm,
just learned from scratch, mainly from what my brother told me and on what I could see online, and that's pretty much it. Just by looking pictures on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever source I can find.
mhm,
So I was like, how I am really good to be a photographer, knowing that I absolutely know nothing about it. Like I don't know. People have studied like 3, 4, 5 years in art school,
yeah,
photography school,
yeah,
or whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's be a photographer. And then tomorrow I'm like taking my business number and say, okay, I'm a photographer now. So that's quite weird. And the first
mhm,
time I really felt the imposter syndrome was at the beginning. I was
yeah,
like, no, I'm not sure of what I'm doing. I'm just pretending when I'm meeting people and when I'm meeting like couples. I'm just pretending I know what I'm doing, and in fact, I've done maybe 10 weddings in my entire life,
mhm,
and
mhm,
most of them I was like a second shooter. So it was quite difficult at first.
Yeah.
And then I think every time in my career, every time I wanted to try something new, I
Mm.
had the imposter coming back like really hard on me,
Mhm.
because I was feeling exactly the same feeling that I had in my beginning. I was like, okay, I know nothing about this. I don't know if I will be good at it. I can sell my service to someone and pretend that I will be good at it. And yeah, every time I wanted to start something new, it was like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't do this, and it just stopped me a lot of time to do a lot of great things.
Mm. Where do you think that comes from? Is it just qualifications or is it other things as well?
Well, that's what I've learned along the way is, and it really helped me a lot. It's like we are all born without any knowledge. Like we are babies and we basically learn from what other people tell us.
Yeah.
So it started with our parents, then our teachers, the friends, people we meet in our work office or whatever. So basically, our entire lives are based on what we learn from the others.
Mhm.
And what I've noticed is the people that are closer to you are the one who give you, and it's not their fault. I mean, they don't want to be bad at you, but they give you the imposter syndrome because they want you to be safe.
Mhm.
Like when you start your business,
Mm.
yeah, it's like when you start your business and your parents, yeah, they're coming at you saying, "You're young, you're a woman. Are you sure you want to do this?" I mean,
Yeah.
and maybe photography is not a really safe business. You don't know if you will succeed at it. They don't want to be bad at you, they want you to be safe.
Mhm.
But by telling you things like this, they give you doubts and fears. And that's when the imposter syndrome starts, because you're like, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not qualified to do this. Maybe I'm too young. Maybe I'm too this, I'm too that. So basically the imposter syndrome comes from what we learn from the others, what they tell us, what the society tell us.
Yeah.
Like women, there are some studies saying that women are more have more imposter syndromes because we all already heard these things like women are good to be mothers, or they're good to be, I don't know, whatever you want. But by telling this, you're telling also, if you're good to be a mother, you're maybe not good to be an entrepreneur, for example.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why you have less women
Mhm.
being entrepreneurs
Mhm.
and more men, because they don't have the same level of imposter syndrome. They
Yeah.
also have on other stuff, on other subject, but not on this one, for example.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think this is not something we have in us. This is something we um
We learn.
people like
Mhm.
well, we learn from other
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, and also women are spoken to differently in uh, be it in marketing, like in advertising, it, in school, in families, everywhere. It's like you get the message so differently. Like women are told whatever, like, oh, you spend your money on shoes and bags and stuff, and men are told, well, you invest and you build and you do this. Like, we are subject to these messages from early on, like, well,
Yeah.
women do this with money or with business, and men do this with money and with business. And so there's definitely this gap where women feel more imposter syndrome, because they're like, I was told my whole life I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be, for example, bad with money. And I'm too stupid to invest money or to do this and that. And men are not told that. So there's already a different foundation. They feel like, even as you said, they have imposter syndrome with other things, but they start from the basis of being more confident in certain things because they're
Yeah,
spoken to differently, right?
definitely. Even the words chosen are different. Like as you said, they're like women, they spend money.
Yep.
Like even it's like a waste of money, and men invest in things.
Mm-hmm.
So the two ways of telling the things, they're
Yep.
telling us like one is like stupid, useless, and whatever, and the other one is like he's building something great and good for his life. So
Yeah.
even the words we're choosing sometimes, they just like telling us we're not doing good, we're not doing like the best thing that we could do.
Yeah, exactly. And if you hear that all your life, of course you're gonna feel inadequate and not good enough to do something and and have more of that imposter syndrome, especially as well if you're trying to get into an industry that you are not qualified for, traditionally qualified for,
Yeah.
and you did it yourself, you're doing it all yourself. That's like a big thing. In the beginning, when you started with photography, did you have that where you didn't call yourself a photographer? Because I had that. I used to say I take photos, or I used to say I shoot weddings. But I for 2 years, 2 whole years, I was not able to say I am a photographer. I couldn't say it because I thought,
Yeah.
who gave me that title? I don't have a piece of paper with that title. I can't just call myself a photographer because I want to. Like, I literally thought that.
I know, I understand that. I was quite the same. I was like, when people ask me what do you do in your life, I was like, yeah, I shoot people and weddings and portraits and stuff like that. I was trying to describe what I do instead of saying clearly, well, I'm a photographer, because
Yeah,
it's simply, I mean,
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
simplest way to tell it. But I was like, I don't know. It's like I was like moving around. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's like I can't just claim that title. Like, it's so interesting. It's exactly like you said. You're trying to describe to describe what you're doing without claiming that label for yourself. It's so interesting, really. Um,
Yeah. Also, because I don't know if you had that, but the first time you said, I'm a photographer, well, the first time I said I'm a photographer, the question after was, oh, where did you learn that? And so
oh,
it was like,
yeah, yeah,
well,
true, true.
well, I learned that from my brother. So it's like you're a bit ashamed of that.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just weird.
That is so true. That is the second question is like, oh, did you study photography? Like, I still get
Uh,
that to this day. People ask me if I studied photography. Now I don't care anymore. I'm not embarrassed. I could not care less. But in the beginning, it definitely was. And I want to talk to you about that progression of like that confidence and like how that grows and how that changes as well. But you said also as well you still do have imposter syndrome. How how has that changed for you with from the beginning, having those feelings about starting out and being new and like being actually a real photographer? How did you overcome that? And when are the moments where it still pops up, and the imposter syndrome still comes out nowadays?
it's still the same moments. Every time I'm trying to do something new, I'm afraid. And the thing is, with the time, I'm trying to tell myself to basically don't listen anybody. Like
Mm.
every time you're trying something new, you always have someone to tell you, are you sure? I don't know, you've never done this before. So now I'm trying, it's quite simple. In my head, I'm trying to tell myself a better story. Because every time the imposter syndrome's coming, it's like let's say we have a new situation. I have to try to meet someone new for a new project I have never done before. Basically, the imposter syndrome coming, and it's like a little voice in my head saying, "You will be bad. You don't know what you're talking about, and people will see it and will know, and will you will look stupid."
Mm.
So what it's just the worst story as possible that I'm telling in my head. So what I try to think is to like think of a quite better story, not the best one, because I don't want to be disappointed at the end if things going bad. We don't know. But I'm trying to find like the middle story, like not the worst, not the best, but a possible real story. Like I'm saying to myself, like, okay, maybe I'm not an expert in that subject, but I have a brain. I'm not stupid. I can think, I can study, and I can learn along the way. So maybe I can meet this person and be honest and tell to this person, okay, I've never done this before, but if it's like a photography project, I can say I'm a photographer and I'm shooting weddings. And weddings is the most difficult photography category ever. And if you can shoot weddings, you can shoot whatever photography in
Anything.
the
Yes.
world,
Yes.
anything.
Yeah.
So basically, I can be honest and I can tell to people, I'm not an expert, I'm not the best, but I've done other things before in my life. So I can learn along the way. And I think I can be better when like time's going. So I try to find like, the middle story to say like I'm not the worst, I'm not the best, but I can learn, I have a brain and I can use it. So basically every time I'm telling to myself, you can do anything, I'm trying to change the story in my mind and telling
Mm.
and at the end, even if the person say, well, no, I don't think you're the right person for this project, well, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna die just after I'm going and be outside, so that's okay.
I absolutely love that with like telling yourself a better story. Not the best, but just a possible good outcome story. That is so, so good. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's such great advice. And so, so true. And now that you are aware of your imposter syndrome and you can, when it's coming up and how to react to it, and how to change that story for yourself. You can do that now that you're aware. But before, let's say 12, when did you start your business? 12 years ago, you said.
Yeah, something like 12 years ago, yeah.
Um, when you started out and you weren't aware of what imposter syndrome is and you had those fears and those doubts, like what do you think changed that over the years? Because you said now you don't have fears and doubts about generally being a photographer because you know what you're doing, you have your shit together, right? But like
Yeah.
what changed that that process, like, or what grew your confidence? Do you think it was just experience and
Well, definitely experience for sure. But basically, I just started to read books about confidence
mm,
because I was like, I was trying to find the magical formula to build confidence.
okay, yeah.
So I just started to read some books about it, and I found some books talking about the imposter syndrome and putting words on it actually, because I was like, yeah, I'm just young, I'm just a woman. I was just thinking like a lot of people think, I guess. So I found some books that they were talking about the imposter syndrome and giving some ideas to like deal with it. And I was like, okay, I think I can try those little techniques like the one I just gave you, like thinking of a better story. This is something I read in, I can't remember, I can give you some book's name. And I was like, okay, that's not stupid. And when I tried the first time, I was like, okay, and my apartment was better than what I was expected at the beginning when I was like thinking of the worst story in my head. So I was like, okay, it could work. And I think I could deal better with it with that little technique in my mind.
Beautiful. What are other techniques that you learned other than that?
Well, this one could be a little bit like hard, but I also stopped asking my friends and my closest friends what they think about what I do. I mean,
Mm.
it's a bit odd, but the thing is, it's like the parents. I stopped like showing my work to my parents or telling them what I do, because I know they want me to be the best as possible, to be like happy in my life, in my work, and all that stuff. But every time I talk with them of something new, they're like, "Ah, are you sure?" I mean, and they gave me more doubts and more fears, and I already have plenty. So so I stopped asking my friends what they think about my work. Every I think every photographer that do that, you have a lot of photographers friend, and after a wedding you're not sure about your entire gallery, and you send your gallery to your friends to like know what they think about it. And you have one friend telling you, yeah, that's really good, and another one telling you, yeah, it's good, but maybe on this part you should have done that, and the third friend telling you another thing. And the more people coming to you, the more doubts you have and the more fears you have. So I stopped asking them, simply.
That is a very good
i'm
idea.
I'm listening. If they have something to tell me, I'm listening.
Mm.
But I try to, how can I say that? I try to make the difference between the good and constructive critics and the critics based on their own fears and their own doubts. Know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yes, 100%, because so much of people's advice is based on people's own fears and people's own like lens through which, no pun intended, lens through which they view the world. And um, that is absolutely true. And it's really important to distinguish, like, is this person's advice coming from a place of fear, or are they actually giving me like valuable, objective, as much as possible objective advice and opinion. That is so so important.
Yeah,
And I stopped years ago asking my friends and family for business advice or any kind of thing like that, because they're not self-employed, they're not creatives. How the it's impossible for them to give me any like really good advice on anything. And even with talking to other photographers or other entrepreneurs, I feel like it can be useful, but also you always should filter anything you hear and question everything you hear as well.
definitely. Even if you're talking with another photographer who's on paper doing the same thing as you, people are not in your shoes. They don't
Yeah.
know what you've been through. They don't know what your career look like. They don't know nothing about how you feel or what's in your head. So
Mm,
it's
mm.
just, you can listen to good advices, but you just have, like as you said, filter them. It's the same way as people like asking you for some advices in your head. You're just thinking of your own, on your own journey, on your own way, and try to give advices to people based on your own life. So this is the same thing for other people giving you
Yeah,
advices. They
yeah,
giving you advices based on their own lives. So it's
yeah,
quite difficult to take it all and just say, "Oh, okay, yes." So you have
yeah,
to think a lot more about it.
yeah. Absolutely. That's so, so true. And it does make you, when you notice that, it does make you a better listener and a better, like, conversationalist as well, because you are aware that your advice is subjective as well. And you can say that, you can communicate that, you can be like, well, this might not apply to your situation 100%. It's just my point of view. And many people don't know that difference.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, they want you to listen to them and to their advice.
And it also helps to not feeling bad if you're giving someone an advice and finally they take another decision like opposite
Yeah,
of the advice you give to
exactly.
them.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, so I gave an advice but it was not good for the situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
it makes you also a better person.
Yes, absolutely. Because you don't know what's best for someone else. The same way nobody knows what's best for me. And you know what's best for you at the end of the day. Even with other people having their opinions. So that's super important. Um,
Mm-mm.
I'm thinking this might be a weird question. I don't know. But do you think that sometimes having imposter syndrome, instead of holding you back, can actually make you work harder because you feel like a fake and you feel like you have to prove more than anything to yourself that you're not a fake?
Yes, 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 definitely, yes. Yes. Basically, imposter syndrome is telling you that you're not good enough at
Mm,
whatever you're thinking about. So you want to be better, and to be better, you have to work harder than anybody else. So you
mm,
work hard, you work longer, you take more time to do things, to
mm,
do new things, to test new things, because you want to be sure that when the times come, you'll be good and you'll be like the perfect person for whatever project it is. So, yes, definitely the imposter syndrome makes you work hard, but you have to make the difference between working hard and, how can I say that? And working in a useless way. I don't know if it's clear, but I think you can learn, but at some point you have learned enough and you have to know when enough is enough.
mhm,
Because when I think about my own journey, there are some still some things that I'm like, it's not the good time to do it. I'm not sure.
mm.
I will still learn about things before starting anything. And sometimes I'm like, depending the day, depending my mood, sometimes I'm like, okay, today is the day. And an hour after, I'm like, nah, no, I'm going to be stupid and I'm going to be ridiculous. Let's learn a little bit more and we'll see tomorrow, or we'll see the next week, and we'll see the next month. And after that, you spend years doing nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, absolutely true. And it's so funny because there's like this line where, yes, you do have to be prepared in some way, and you have to know what you're talking about, but also there is no perfect moment. There is no like, this is now I'm done and now I know everything and now I can do it, because you never know everything. You just have to start, and then you will always keep learning anyway on the subject. But there is a point where you just have to start, like at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no sign or nothing to telling you like, okay, this is the right moment. Like, let's go.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
often there's no sign. Sometimes it could happen. You have like someone asking you for something you have thought about for weeks, and you're like, okay, this is the occasion. I think this is the sign I can go. But most of the time, it's just you dealing with yourself and just telling yourself, okay, I think I can do it, and we'll see.
mm,
It's like you have to let it go.
yeah, yeah. Let it go, let it go.
You know what I thought about it when I was telling, I was like, no, I can sing. No. But in my head, I had the song.
Let's sing. Let's do it. Oh my gosh! Every time, like every time I hear the words "Let It Go" in my head, I'm like, I,
I know it's the same for me, but I'm like, mm, mm, mm.
thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's such a beautiful example, your story, that you can actually change your mindset by doing the work, by learning, by studying, and implementing it. You know, you read about the, you know, changing your story, and you implemented it. You actually tried it, and it worked. And it's such a beautiful example of someone changing their mindset, and therefore changing their life, really, and how they operate, which is so beautiful. I'd love to know, when was the
Thank you.
last time? You're welcome. I would love to know, when was the last time you felt imposter syndrome, like really fresh? The last time.
Uh, like last month,
Okay.
for real, last month. I was working for new lens for Sony because
Hmm.
I'm a Sony ambassador, and they were launching a new lens, and they asked me to take some photos to present the lens.
Hmm.
We wanted to try with Jeremy. We wanted to try a completely different style of photography that I used to show. This is
Hmm.
something I wanted to try like for years, and I never did it because of lack of time and whatever excuses I I did to myself.
Yeah.
But the thing is, for this project, we were like, okay, let's do it for this project. But I was like, I never trained before. I felt unprepared, and finally we did it. And I was like, okay, all the people who are expert in artificial lights, uh, they will come at me saying me that it is awful, that I did bad, and I was so
Yeah.
scared about it.
Yeah.
And so the first time I published the photos on my Instagram, in the caption, um, I wanted to change it, but finally I just let it as it is. But it's like I was trying to find
Mm.
excuses like, okay, I'm doing something different today. I don't know if I'm good at it, and all those little voices. And I sometimes you just can help yourself. But last month I was like, I don't know. I like what I did, but I was afraid of what people will say about it because it's too different. It's like completely different. It's new. And I was like so
Mm.
afraid of what people would say about it because I was feeling I was not qualified. I'm not an artificial light expert. I claimed myself for years working only on natural light. And today I'm like coming, hey, okay, now today I'm working on the artificial light. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be like small. And I posted my photo and I was like, no, I don't want to look at the comments because I was so afraid.
And I'm sure they were all super nice, right?
Well, finally, yes, and finally that helped me a lot because I was like, okay, so next time I want to do something new that is completely different of my usual work. I don't have to be afraid because most of the time people are kind and they won't kill you for something for doing something different or something new. Like you won't die tomorrow, so that's okay.
Exactly. And we better get used to it, because as creatives, we are normally, like, we have that itch that we want to try new things all the time. It happens a lot if you're creative and you create something,
Yeah.
whether that's with your hands or with a tool. Like, there comes a point where you want to try something new and something different. And so that will always happen. That voice will always come up because of that, of that itch.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
better get used to it.
Definitely. So next time, because I know it, but next time I will tell to myself, okay, so what? You will show something new. Some people will like it, some people won't, and that's okay.
That's it.
What's the worst thing that could happen? Actually, nothing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
every time and next time again, I will tell that to myself.
I love that. I love that, Beatrice. Thank you so, so much for sharing all of this. Thank you for like telling us the story as well. This was kind of a spontaneous question, unplanned. So thank you for sharing that so honestly and sharing your story and everything that you've learned. This was really helpful. I learned stuff that I didn't know today. So that was really, really cool. I loved it. Loved talking to you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That was really fun and really cool. And I was so nervous again to talk about that subject because I'm not an expert on that. And I just wanted to share what I've learned along the way. So I
Yeah.
was so nervous about that, but that was really cool.
Love it. And even like if you haven't, again, you don't have a title, you haven't studied it, but you are an expert on your own experience. That's what you know, and that's what you can share, and that is ultimately what helps us. You just sharing your experience is what can help other people that are hearing it. So huge thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really, really fun talking with you.